The automotive world is in the midst of a profound transformation, and nowhere is that more apparent than in China. For decades, foreign automakers, American, European, Japanese, reigned supreme in the country's market. But in an astonishing reversal, Chinese manufacturers are now turning heads across the globe by producing vehicles that compete, and often win, on price, software, battery technology, and performance. From the meteoric rise of BYD and the emergence of startups like Nio and Xpeng to Tesla's huge presence in Shanghai, China has rapidly become the epicenter of the electric vehicle revolution. Today, we're taking a deep dive into what makes China's EV industry so formidable, how it compares to its Western rivals, and what it all means for global car buyers. 40 years ago, private car ownership in China was practically unheard of. The entire country had a fraction of the roads and highways that we see today, and bicycles dominated city streets. Foreign automakers, if they paid attention to China at all, had little reason to view it as a major growth opportunity. But then, the government initiated sweeping economic reforms, opening the door for global manufacturers like Volkswagen, General Motors, and others to establish joint ventures in this massive potential market. Fast forward to the 21st century, China is now the world's largest auto market, with over 25 million vehicles sold annually. Yet in the past few years, a dramatic shift has taken place. For the first time, Chinese automakers are leading the pack in their own country, surpassing once dominant foreign brands. Companies like BYD have become global EV juggernauts, delivering millions of new energy vehicles and even outproducing Tesla in raw volume. Meanwhile, traditional manufacturers like GM and Ford have seen their sales in China plummet by over 50%. Jeep, in fact, closed its operations entirely. Nowhere is this reversal of fortunes more evident than at BYD, short for Build Your Dreams. Founded in 1995 by Wang Chuanfu as a small battery company, BYD spent its early years making batteries for cell phones. But by the mid-2000s, it had entered the auto business, launching plug-in hybrids and battery electric models. In 2008, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway took notice, purchasing a 10% stake. While initially overshadowed by other automakers, BYD has grown into a powerhouse, with cars at every price point, from the ultra-affordable Seagull EV to luxury sedans and SUVs. In 2023 alone, BYD produced over 3 million new energy vehicles, topping the Chinese market with a 40% EV share. Across the globe, it's exporting to more than 70 countries, including markets in Southeast Asia, Latin America, Australia, and parts of Europe. And it's not just passenger cars. BYD also builds buses, trucks, and even supplies batteries to competitors, including Tesla. Most crucially, it's managed to leverage its expertise in batteries, often the single most expensive component in an electric car, to reduce costs dramatically. The key to China's EV explosion comes down to three main factors: competitive pricing, cutting-edge battery technology, and robust vehicle software. Whether you're talking about a BYD Dolphin at $15,000 or a high-end Nio ES8 at triple that price, most Chinese EVs offer a level of standard equipment and software integration that's been difficult for Western automakers to match. In modern cars, software isn't just about the infotainment screen. It's also crucial for battery management, driver assistance, and system updates. Many Chinese brands were born out of tech or electronics sectors, so they bring a fast-paced, phone-like approach to over-the-air updates and user experience. Time after time, these cars boast lightning-fast touchscreens, advanced connectivity, and advanced driver assistance packages that rival Tesla's autopilot. Meanwhile, some legacy automakers continue to struggle with laggy infotainment interfaces and are only now adopting robust OTA capabilities. With a home market saturated by fierce competition, Chinese car makers are looking outward. They've already become dominant players in Southeast Asia, where EV adoption is climbing rapidly, and markets like Thailand, the Philippines, and Singapore welcome affordable electric models. Exports to Europe are also ramping up, prompting the European Union to investigate claims of Chinese EV dumping and unfair subsidies. And in Australia, Chinese brands are gaining traction quickly, snapping up more than 14% of the EV market in just over a year. But the big question remains, will these Chinese cars ever take the United States by storm? Right now, a 25% tariff on made-in-China vehicles, coupled with an additional EV tariff that could bring the total to 100%, effectively keeps them out. Politicians argue that these import barriers protect American automakers from subsidized competition. Yet Chinese companies are already circumventing these hurdles by eyeing manufacturing sites in Mexico, where they can export cars to the US under more favorable trade rules. Some American analysts predict that the US could see a wave of competitively priced Chinese-made EVs within a few years, unless further restrictions are imposed. None of this is good news for legacy car makers who once relied on the Chinese market for outsized profits. GM, Ford, and even Jeep saw their share of China's auto market crumble in recent years. In the mid-2010s, GM was making a reported $2 billion a year in equity income from its Chinese joint ventures. Now, profits have fallen dramatically, and the company's sales there are lower than in the United States for the first time since 2009. European brands like Volkswagen, once virtually synonymous with the Chinese family car, are also feeling the pressure. Although VW remains determined to stay in the game, forging partnerships with Chinese software specialists, its market share has steadily declined. Meanwhile, American EV icon Tesla is facing stiffer competition on its own turf. Tesla's Shanghai factory, the first foreign-owned auto plant in China without a local joint venture partner, initially helped the brand secure a major share of Chinese EV sales. But the pace of innovation among domestic rivals has forced Elon Musk's company to repeatedly slash prices and revamp its lineup just to keep sales robust. A common misconception is that Chinese cars must be cheaply made or unsafe, but advanced robotic assembly lines, rigorous quality checks, and impressive crash test performances are rapidly dispelling that myth. Top-tier Chinese EVs often earn 5-star Euro NCAP ratings. Brands like Nio, BYD, and Zeekr use advanced driver assistance sensors and top-grade battery cells that meet or exceed global standards. Factory tours reveal massive die-casting machines, meticulously calibrated robotics, and entire production halls dedicated to final inspections. In many cases, each vehicle rolling off the line undergoes thorough panel gap measurements, water leak tests, and paint thickness checks before it's shipped off. From sub-$20,000 budget EVs to high-end luxury models, Chinese automakers clearly see quality and safety as essential for succeeding on the international stage. So how will this story unfold? One thing is certain, Chinese automakers aren't content with just dominating their domestic market. They've become masters at scale, producing cars at volumes unthinkable even for some legacy giants. They're also well-versed in forging global partnerships to build batteries, set up assembly plants, and integrate advanced software. And as markets like Europe, Southeast Asia, and Latin America rapidly electrify, the appetite for affordable, reliable EVs can only grow. Meanwhile, Western automakers are caught at a crossroads. They can either accelerate their software and battery development programs, or risk being undercut by faster, cheaper, and more innovative Chinese brands. Already, we've seen partnerships between global players and Chinese manufacturers for sourcing batteries or co-developing vehicles. But is that just a short-term fix? Critics warn that deeper reliance on Chinese supply chains could leave companies in the United States and Europe vulnerable to geopolitical tensions, tariffs, or raw material constraints. In the world's largest auto market, the tables have turned. Chinese EV companies, once dismissed, now stand as formidable contenders. They boast cutting-edge manufacturing, advanced software, budget-friendly pricing, and a hunger for global expansion. Tariffs might slow them down. Joint ventures might shift the balance. But all signs indicate that the era of the Chinese electric car has arrived. For drivers, this upheaval could translate into more choices at better prices, though it may also reshape entire automotive supply chains and job markets. For Western automakers, it's a wake-up call to innovate or risk irrelevance. And for the industry at large, it's proof that the race toward electrification has more than one frontrunner. Thank you for joining us on this journey through China's rapidly evolving EV landscape. Whether you're a car enthusiast, a prospective EV buyer, or just curious about the future of mobility, one thing is abundantly clear: the competition is heating up, fast. And wherever you are in the world, chances are a Chinese-made electric car is closer than you might think.